How's everybody? I want to thank you for coming this morning. As I said before, the roads weren't particularly desirable, but here we are. And all in all, we've had a pretty good winter, I think. We haven't had a lot of big blizzards or snowstorms. It's been pretty easy on us. Now, unfortunately, the same is not true for my cousin Ozzy, who lives up in South Dakota. They get hit with blizzards sometimes twice a week. And about 2 weeks ago, Ozzy and his girlfriend Olga were listening to the radio because a storm was coming over the town. And the announcer on the radio said, "We have a blizzard coming in. The snow plows are going to be out in the middle of the night, so everybody park their car on the side of the street that has even numbers." So Ozzy gets up, he runs out, he moves his car to the side of the street that has even numbers. Well, about a week later, the same thing happens. They're listening to the radio, and the announcer says, "Everybody move your car to the side of the street that has odd numbers because the snow plows are going to be out." Ozzy gets up, runs out, moves his car to the side of the street that has odd numbers. Well, a week later, another storm's coming in. Ozzy and Olga are listening to the radio, and just the announcer's about to give directions as to where to park your car, the power goes out. And Ozzy is confused, he is rattled, he is stressed out. And he says, "Olga, we don't know where to park the car." And Olga says, "Ozzy, perhaps just this once, you can leave it parked in the garage." Oh, yeah. Cousin Ozzy. Well, over the last 4 or 5 weeks, we've been going through the basic spiritual principles of unity. And this all came about back in the late 1800s. The fundamental movement became very strong because religion was moving into more of a contemporary style. So they developed literalism, and that meant taking the Bible literally. Every single thing is true. Well, if you do that, you're going to have a lot of remorse, you're going to have a lot of sadness, you're going to feel that God is distant, that God is the enemy. And so a new thought movement came up, which is what unity is a part of. Not New Age, but New Thought. And it's a new way of thinking for people. The primary focus was to come up with a formula that was a sure way to live a successful, happy life. So the co-founders, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, they spent years doing this. And they came up with 5 basic principles that if we understand them and employ them in our lives, we can relieve much of the fear and the anxiety and the worry and the hurt that we experience. The first principle is there's one power and one presence in the universe. That is, we call God. Now, here for a moment, I'd like to ask, where did he come from? Well, the obvious answer is I came from my parents. Where did your parents come from? They came from their parents. And where did their parents come from? Their parents. And if you keep taking that back all the way to the beginning, you find a single source, a single power in this universe that is responsible for everything that's been created. We call that God. Other people call it the nature of the universe. Other people call it the universal mind. But it is one thing that created all of life. We have all evolved from that one source. Now, what does that mean? It means that the source for all of us is exactly the same. On the outside, we might have differences. We might have black, white, Asian, Hispanic, whatever it might be. But inside, the very essence of us, our soul, is exactly from the same source. Now, I have atheist friends, and oftentimes we get in discussions, and they say they don't believe in God. I said, "Well, I think you're mistaken. You do believe in God." They said, "No, I don't believe in God." So I asked them, "What is your definition of God?" And they always go back to that fundamental definition of the old man with the long white hair sitting on a throne someplace in the far outreaches of the sky, looking down with a certain amount of consternation and a certain amount of sadness and regret because we were all born sinful by nature. I said, "Well, that's your God. I don't believe in him either." But there is something that you have to believe in that is bigger than yourself, that is bigger than the life that you're living, whatever that might be. I said, "Is there anything you can't live with?" He said, "Well, breath, I guess." "Okay, breath. And breath is your God. And what does breath do? Breath gives you life. And what does life do? Life provides you everything you need to move through your existence with a sense of confidence, if you will." So whatever your God might be, I don't care, but you have to dedicate yourself, you have to recognize something in your life that is greater than you and that you can turn to or that you can depend on to provide you with what you need during the difficult times in life. The second principle is, if God is the source of all that is, that means God is within us. Once again, whatever your definition of God is, that God's Spirit's within us. And that God's Spirit provides for us spiritual attributes. Those spiritual attributes provide for us a way to negotiate our way through life, the way to rebound when we've been knocked down and we feel like we're out for the count. It allows us to imagine things we'd like to happen in our life. It allows us to forgive those who have hurt us. All of those spiritual attributes are within us to the same degree. Nobody has more confidence than you. Now you might wonder, well, I don't think that's true. But it is. It's just that sometimes what you're thinking interferes or clouds over your confidence, and you don't turn to it, you don't utilize it. We forget that we have it. All sorts of our spiritual attributes are there to provide for us a way when we meet with something that hampers our peace of mind or a sense of well-being. We have that within us. Now the third principle is, and this happens to be my favorite because it's the most evident for me, our thoughts create the emotional experience that we have in life. Nothing out there does. We sometimes think that life controls us, life does stuff to us, life makes us do something, but that's not true at all. It's all an inside job. We have everything that we need to live a good life, but if we allow life to determine how we're going to live it, it's not going to work out for us because life is chaotic. Life is sporadic. Life has a certain downside to it. We get hurt. People are mean. Things happen. But when we turn inside, we can find exactly what we need. And when I say that our thoughts create our emotional experience, I need to tell you that an emotional experience is everything. Thoughts don't make up life. It's the experience of life that does, and every experience of life has an emotion to it of some sort, whether that emotion is positive or whether it's negative. Whether it is guilt or shame or fear, which are negative emotions, or if it's lethargy or apathy, which is a boredom with life, all the way up to love, peace, joy, and harmony. All of those emotions are within us, and each one has a specific purpose. Sometimes we say, we got to get rid of the hate. There's no room to hate. I have to love, love, love. Well, hate is an important emotion at times if it initiates an action on our part to do something differently. Hate and anger and fear and stress are all emotions that alert us something isn't quite right with our lives, and we need to look at it and make a change. And once again, that change isn't out there, that change is in here. When I run into a situation or a circumstance that upsets me or disturbs me, or I lash out at somebody that cut me off in driving, I have to ask myself, why am I feeling this way? What is it about me that makes me feel this way? And when I ask that question and I go deeper, I come to realize that there is a reason why I act a certain way, a certain negative way to certain things. Our thoughts create our reality, and our reality is the emotional experience that we have. Now, I'm sure everybody in here can think of times in their life when they just got extremely upset and they blame somebody else. Now, excuse me, but I have to excuse physical and emotional abuse from this. That is somebody outside of you stopping all over the landscape of your life. But I'm talking about the little day-to-day things that upset us. I'm talking about the things that upset us with a partner that we might be living with. And we all know that's not the easiest thing to do. Is it, men? You know, now that was the dumbest thing I ever said. 70% of my client base and the people that come here are women. And here I go making a little jab at them, so I'm sorry. Living with somebody isn't exactly easy. Is it, women? No. We're all in this together. But we do things, when you're that close, you know, things happen that We don't mean to happen, but they just do. We become forgetful, or we say something that we wish we could take back. We do all sorts of things that just cause little irritations. But that is the beauty of an intimate relationship. That you can be yourself, that you can vent those ugly emotions that are inside you, and the other person has committed to being there with you and supporting you during that time. The third principle is our thoughts create our reality. And our reality is an emotional experience that we create within us. Now, the fourth principle is when things go wrong in our life, when we know that we have a mindset or we have an attitude or we have a perspective that isn't good for us and it isn't good for the world around us, whatever that might be. That doesn't mean that's part of our nature. That doesn't mean that we're stuck with it, that we have to live with that the rest of our lives. What it does mean is that we have to change that. Now, our minds are very much like a computer, and you've heard me say this many, many times, a brand new computer that has never been programmed. We get that, and we put a program into it. And sometimes that program might be faulty. It might have a virus of some sort or something where the computer doesn't accurately reflect the truth of our being. If you get a brand new computer and you plug into it 2 plus 2 equals 5, you ask the computer how much is 2 plus 2, it says 5. It doesn't know the difference. And our minds are the same way. The conscious mind and the subconscious mind are like a recorder that simply takes in information. And then the higher mind deciphers that and dictates our experiences and our expression. So when we were born, we came into this world and we're happy and we're go-lucky. You know, a baby or a child up to maybe 5 years old is the most amazing thing in the world. They're just absolutely beautiful because there's a purity there. And we as human beings, even though we probably can't remember that, we understand it. We recognize that purity. That purity when you have no past that haunts you with bad memories or regrets or all sorts of different experiences that upset you. That type of purity that has no fears of the future, no anxiety. They're not worried about whether the credit card bills are paid. They're not worried about anything that is going on because they're right here now in the present moment. We all have that within us. It's just that we've walked away with it. We've lost it. We get torn into thinking about the past. Oh my God, I shouldn't have done that. Or I wish I would have done that. Or I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow. I got a big meeting with the boss. It's going to go bad. I'm going to get fired. I just know it. I'm going to call in sick. Well, I just make me do it the next day or the day after that. But young children don't have that. They're totally involved in the present moment. So when we find ourselves in our lives upset or angry or off path, off course, so to speak, and the greatest way to rectify that is meditation. And this isn't a self-meditation, but it has been for thousands of years the most effective way to calm the mind and to bring a certain balance back to it. With meditation, we don't try to do anything. And I'm talking about mindful meditation here primarily. With mindful meditation, we just sit and we relax and we follow the breath. We breathe in and we breathe out. And then we just sit. And whatever comes into our mind, good, bad, or indifferent, it floats across like a cloud in the sky. And we just observe it. We don't react to it. We don't even think about it. We just observe it. Isn't that interesting? That here in the midst of meditation, I would think about how my 7th grade girlfriend dumped me. Where did that come from? It's still in there someplace. So with that meditation, and we start to observe the mind and how it's thinking, the mind begins to slow down. And within the thoughts that come through the mind, pretty soon you get to have spaces of nothingness. It's a consciousness without thought, which is the bliss of all meditation. We're aware that we're meditating, but we're not thinking about anything at all. We are just totally present. When we meditate, oftentimes it's upsetting, or we get irritated with ourselves. We can't seem to focus. You know, and the thoughts come into our mind, we say, no thoughts go away, no thoughts go away. No, I can't do this, I can't do this, I just don't have that mind. But the point is to just be with it. Just be with that moment. And the thoughts are coming into your mind, they're coming into your mind. You just observe them and they'll pass through your mind. Now, it'd be nice if we had a lifelong problem with anger or with low self-esteem or any other of the negative emotions that seem to haunt us. It'd be nice if we could sit down and meditate and they'd all go away. But that's not the case. Those thoughts, those negative thoughts we've had that we build up over a lifetime are like a muscle within the mind. And just as we built those up over a lifetime, it takes time for that to slowly go away. But it will happen. And you'll see remarkable results within 3 weeks, the experts say. 21 days is supposed to be the magic number. Not that everything is going to go away after 21 days, but you'll feel a great sense of progress, and you feel that you are the one that is in control of this, that your thoughts or anything outside of you, once again, isn't. It's meditation. We have meditation here twice a day, 365 days a year. The holidays are the most active times. It's like Christmas at 12 noon. People got to get out of the house. The family's driving them nuts. I got to do something. And so they come down here and meditate. We have people that come down, they just discovered that their loved one had died. And they come down, they need to meditate, not by themselves, but with a group of people that support them in that. It's called Serenity Pause, 12:10, 5:30 every day. Absolutely no charge for it. During the week, we get business people that come over. We get people off the streets that are homeless that come in and meditate. And once again, it is simple. It is doing nothing. You don't have to take classes. You don't have to take lessons. You don't have to have a magic word that you pay $2,500 for. You don't have to do anything except just sit and just be in all your wholeness. Now, the fifth principle is that this just isn't going to happen. If you dedicate yourself to God, and if you recognize that you have all these spiritual attributes that will help you go through life in a peaceful manner, and you are aware of the situations and circumstances in your life that you're creating your experience, and you meditate, that's great, that's perfect. But just like anything else, to become good at it, you have to have repetition. The mind's not used to sitting quietly. The mind's used to being active. 100 years ago, the average person took in about 600 impressions a day. There was nothing like we have today with outside forces demanding the attention of the mind. Today we take in 60,000 impressions a day versus 600 in just 100 years. Well, the mind can certainly handle this. It's the most sophisticated computer there is. But still 60,000 is a lot of distractions. It's a lot of things coming in. So when we go to sit down and do nothing, the mind rebels. It says, I don't want to do this. I got stuff to do. Oh my gosh, I forgot. I was supposed to call somebody, or I was supposed to do something, or this is late, or that's late. It's a time to just let all of that go. You put it aside. It's going to be there when you walk out, I can guarantee you that. But for that moment, you discover a truly peaceful moment. You meditate, and you become aware of your thoughts, and you become aware of this higher power that you have, and you become aware of the spiritual attributes within you. If you do that for mere 21 days, you're going to find a remarkable difference. Your times of being disgruntled or being highly irritable are going to be much shorter. The times that you get anger and you bark out at somebody, it's going to become much shorter. When I first got married, my wife and I would get in arguments, and they would last for days. I don't know what we were thinking. The only way we had to communicate after the first couple hours, for me anyway, was slapping cupboard doors or slamming drawers. Let her know, yeah, I'm still mad. I'm still mad about that. But it didn't survive, or it didn't provide any of us with a sense of well-being. And everybody here that's been in an intensive relationship, an intimate relationship, you know when you're not on key with somebody that you love, whether it's a family member or a partner or whoever, you don't feel good. Your physical body becomes sick when you're separated. So once again, with meditation, it helps make those periods shorter. It increases our mental, our physical, and our spiritual well-being. As we move into meditation, I want you to take a minute and just think about your life. How is it? Well, it's good. There might be irritations. You might get a pebble in your shoe once in a while. It's a little difficult to walk the path of life. but life is good. And when we rise above all the piddly-diddly blows of life, we discover that we truly have everything that we need to live the life we desire to live. We'll now move into meditation.